Okay, motion passes unanimously. We have the Treasurer's Office overview by the Assistant Treasurer, Mr. Biondo.
Hello, everybody. For the record, Joe Biondo, Chief Deputy Treasurer of Macomb County. I'd like to begin by thanking the Chair and the committee for giving us an opportunity to come before you to give a brief overview of what we do in the Treasurer's Office, the good work that our staffers in that office do for the county every day, and then I'll open it up for questions. So I'd like to begin by first talking about the two core functions of the Treasurer's Office. Basically, the first core function is to be the custodian of all county funds. So obviously that would mean receiving, and handling the investments for the county. Depending on the cash flow throughout the year, we're handling between $250 to $400 million in investments on behalf of the county and the various departments that we do work for. Just to give you some numbers, back in 2015, we were able to generate for the county $391,000 in investment income. That's from the general fund investment income and the delinquent tax revolving fund investment income. So 2015, $391,000. In 2016, that number jumped to $992,000. And I'll get into the reasons why when I talk about our investment officer and what he's been doing for the county. The second thing that the Treasurer's Office does, which I find interesting, is the collection of delinquent real property taxes and the collection of personal property taxes. I got to learn about delinquent real property taxes, what essentially the system was in this state up until 1968. So previously, essentially what happened was the locals handled it, and it was a big mess, and they amended the Michigan property tax law back in 1968 to allow the creation of the delinquent tax revolving fund. And if you guys would bear with me, I'd like to read this short excerpt explaining exactly what it is that this fund does. So the 1968 amendment permitted any county to create this fund, and obviously Macomb County did so. And basically what this allows to do is for the county to pay all the taxing units, so all this, basic units of whether it's a city or township within the county, for all the delinquent real property taxes due to them. And the reason why this is such a huge advantage to the old system is because there's huge benefits to the locals and to the county as well. So at the local level, they don't have to wait for extended periods of time to receive basically what is due and owing for their delinquent taxes. On the county side, it eliminated a ton of paperwork, and more importantly, it allowed us to retain the interest on those taxes. And that generates a substantial revenue stream for the county. The revolving tax fund itself, I mentioned how much we had in there the last time I spoke to you, but as of today has about $112 million in there. And this money is strictly for the purpose of allowing the treasurer to essentially purchase from the locals the delinquent properties, making them whole, and then basically financing this whole operation to foreclose on these properties and collect revenues and interest to the county. And that's the main advantage to the system. And the county is completely protected from any loss, because what happens is, let's say we have a foreclosed property and we don't generate enough to cover the delinquent tax, then the local unit has to basically compensate us for that. In other words, there's no way that the county can lose money on this system. To me, it's a huge improvement to the old system and something that we should be proud. We're not the only county in the state that has such a large amount of money in the fund, but there's not that many counties in the state that can say that they have the level of funds that we do. Now, every year we take a look at what's going on with these foreclosed properties, and if we feel there's a surplus in the fund, we bring that to you guys. We let you know there's a surplus, and typically, historically, that's been $8 million every year. That's where the $8 million figure came from when we transferred money to the general fund to help out with the short-term loan to the drainage district. That was the $8 million surplus that was declared last year. We won't know what the surplus will be for this year until we get further into the foreclosure process, and once we have that number, obviously we'll notify the Board of Commissioners of that. We have 32 employees in the treasurer's office, including myself and the county treasurer. We have 5 at-will positions in the office. When we started at the start of this year, we had 2 openings, 2 at-will positions. We promoted from within someone who's been with the county treasurer's office for 30 years, seen a lot, we felt was perfect for that role. I'd like you to recognize Maureen Alexandrowitz. She is our tax collection administrator, and she's been a huge, huge help for us in terms of transitioning and making sure that everything's done properly. So, you know, I think that someone who spent 30 years in the treasurer's office and finally made it to a top post like that, transitioning from a union spot to an at-will spot, is a great story that should be told all over the county. We also have our investment officer here. I'd like to recognize John Kravitz here. He's basically the main reason why, in my opinion, we saw such an increase in the investment income from 2015 to 2016. And, you know, I got to give credit to Derek Miller, who retained him in the at-will position, and certainly my boss, who saw the talent there as well and retained him with us as well. And the way that we were able, the treasurer's office was able to generate the additional income from 2015 to 2016 and do so without increasing risk to our investments was basically by structuring our investments so what came due was essentially enough money to cover our expenses for that month. So really the way it works is we take a look at the cash flow for the county, we structure the investments so that we have money available to handle the cash flow, but any excess money is getting invested so that we generate a higher return for the county. And what we're working on doing is generating more in 2017 than we did in 2016. I want to talk about the hiring process because I found it interesting. We got to deal with Robin DeCristofaro over in HR. It's been great to work with her. We're all about efficiencies, getting things done as quickly as possible. And Robin, I want to just recognize how great a help she's been in expediting things for us and working around our schedules to get people hired into positions as quickly as possible. In January, the main thing I want to share with you guys as far as what we worked on was the administrative law hearing that we had. This was really our first big event in the treasurer's office. It was in the middle of January. We had about 180 taxpayers come in to sit down with us. I met with about half of them individually. Treasurer Rocca met with the other half. And we were able to work out payment plans with these people, and everybody left with a smile. You know, nobody likes to pay taxes, but they are thankful for the help in terms of working out payment plans to keep them in their homes, and that's our focus. We want people to stay in their homes. We don't want there to be abandoned properties out there. It hurts the community at large. We're not interested in seeing that happen. So as long as anybody's willing to work with us, we're willing to work with them, and that's the philosophy that Treasurer Rocca came into the office with and what, you know, we've been telling everybody that we have to focus on in the treasurer's office. We already talked about the $8 million transfer from the revolving tax fund in February. March, I find this interesting. So in March, we had been in discussions with Public Works talking about the fact that regardless of the reasons why, Public Works were handling their own investments. And we were looking at that, and the Public Works Commissioner was on board with us transitioning to handling the investments for Public Works. And the reason why I think the Commissioner is doing it is because after talking to our investment officer, you know, we stressed the fact that we can probably double how much they're generating in investment income, you know, having us handle the investments as opposed to, you know, having Public Works do it. So I wanted to share that because it's showing, in my opinion, how 2 new people and new departments are coming together to do positive things for the county. I also want to talk briefly about the online payment system. This was rolled out December 31st of last year. In my opinion, you know, it was well overdue, and, you know, I credit the previous administration for that. Basically what happened was we started accepting online payments by e-check, and in the first quarter, while we were overseeing that, we received $1.68 million during the first quarter of this year. We're hoping to expand the online system in 2 to 3 months to include online payments by debit card as well. Again, this is just to add flexibility to taxpayers' ability to pay taxes and hopefully help them keep them in their homes. Finally, we had a treasurer's breakfast last week. Commissioner Carbelli was able to make it. It was a great event. We invited all the local treasurers and assessors to come, and we gave a presentation. We had an economist give an economic update. We had a legislator give a legislative update. And really what the point of the whole thing was for the breakfast, which was sponsored by Chemical Bank and at no cost to the county, was just give an opportunity for the local treasurers and assessors to meet with us, to talk to them and give them updates on what we're doing at the county level. More importantly, let them know that we're here to help them. You know, these treasurers, in our opinion, help these local communities become prosperous in their roles. And whatever we can do to support them, I think, benefits the county in the long term. And that's something that Treasurer Rocca wanted to stress to them, and which we invited them to do at the Treasurer's Breakfast, which was give us a call if you want to come talk to our investment officer because you want to bounce different investment strategies off of them, do that. So we encourage that. And, you know, we see more treasurers and assessors calling in, looking for help, and we love doing that. Finally, just some random facts about the treasurer's office that I found interesting, so hopefully you do as well. We're the only county in the state of Michigan that has their county file department, or excuse me, land file department in the treasurer's office. I think that's something that sets us apart from every other county in the state. And it's a good thing. It makes sense for the land file department to be there because of the work we do with the tax foreclosure process. Finally, I pretty much covered everything I wanted to just say, and just open it up to any questions any of the commissioners might have. Sorry it took so long, but I just wanted to cover those points.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Biondo, thank you for coming. And honestly, excellent presentation. I guess my question to you is twofold. The Treasurer Rocca, has he been in that position before? Has he been with the county in the treasurer's position before?
Treasurer Rocca is newly elected to that position, but he's been a treasurer for nonprofits and various other organizations probably for over 40 years. So it's something he's been doing quite a bit, but not for the county.
It seems to me particularly very refreshing to see that here's a gentleman that came in brand new, so to speak, in the county level, and things have run so seamlessly. And I'm sure some of that is due to you, being his assistant, helping out. And I just want to commend you and him for doing a heck of a job in the Treasurer's Department. So thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate that comment. I'll share that with the treasurer. And just so you know what our management philosophy is, the first week we were in that office, we basically organized and met with all our staffers one-on-one to get to know them and for them to get to know us. And throughout the last 3 months, we meet regularly with the department heads, but I also make my rounds and talk individually with our employees to ask them, did you see anything we can do better? So I just wanted to share that. But thank you.
Thank you. Chair Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to piggyback on Commissioner Romano. I was going to mention the same thing. I just want to let you know that the board appreciates how Treasurer Rocca has come into office and transitioned seamlessly, recognized the great work of the employees that he had, and done a fairly okay job of bringing on a really good deputy treasurer. No, it's been he's done all the moves that he's been making have been apparently very good ones, and I just want to express our appreciation for it, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Joseph, for coming up to give us an excellent briefing. You know, it's been on the board for some time, but it's good to have a comprehensive report like you just gave, and it's very interesting, certainly helpful for all the new commissioners, as well as reminded me of some of the things that you do. How much money came over from how much money are you now managing that the Public Works Office was managing prior?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. I can look that up for you and get back to you. I know that we're waiting for certain investments that they had made to mature, and they'll transition those over to us for us to reinvest. So far, we've received $1.7 million from them, and we're just waiting for some of their other investments. Ballpark figure, we're talking probably like $5 million or less. And I'll get the exact number for you, Commissioner.
What type of investments were they in?
They were basically in money market accounts, so very minimal amount of basis points as far as the investment return on that.
Where did the money come from?
That I'm not quite sure. All I know is that it's money that's under the control of the Public Works Commissioner, and it's just something that we had discussions with the current Public Works Commissioner, and we were all in agreement that that prior practice should end because we were basically, at the county level leaving money on the table. We can generate I didn't want to say this, but I think we'll probably end up generating 3 times as much in terms of investment income that they were generating. So yeah, double, aiming for triple. So.
Well, but they have it in a bag under their bed? I mean, how could you manage, how could you make that much money? I mean, I know money markets is probably where they had it, right? But I'm curious more about what about the, where did that money come from? Is there an accounting for where the monies came from and what, were they broke, they came out of the drain funds maybe? Is that where that money came from?
I'm not prepared to speak on that, Commissioner.
Okay, all right.
I'd like
That's just probably a subject for another day. But there's some, I'd like some information on that in the future. I understand it is new, and you probably were surprised to find out that they had a bag of money over there.
This is our investment officer.
All money from the drain funds, which were contributed from the other local communities.
Okay, so they're all identified, this amount of money?
Yes.
They are detailed in
Yeah.
that regard.
There are probably 200 separate drain accounts, and they're working on combining them and closing out accounts that are old and working on getting all the maintenance accounts together. So they're working on that now and transitioning most of the rest of that money over to us as they reconcile it.
Who was the financial advisor on that?
The advisor on the
Who was the financial advisor investing the money for the Public Works Department
Bruce
previous to you?
Manning.
What was his name?
Bruce Manning.
Okay, I don't think I know him. Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you very much. I'd like some more detail on that. We'll talk to you about that offline, and I think there's more to be learned on that subject. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe, good to see you. I remember about 6 months ago, you and I were up on motions at the FOC, and you were saying you were looking for a change, and I'm glad you wound up here and that Treasurer Rocket chose you to be his deputy. I'm really glad to see that. And I want to echo what Commissioner Romano said and what Chairman Smith said. It is absolutely refreshing to see when a new administration comes in, and I hear things like you promoted somebody from within that has 30 years experience, that you retained a finance person that has doubled the money and now has almost tripled the money. Those are the type of decisions that I think everybody on this board thinks is important whenever somebody comes in. So many times when somebody new comes in, they think they got to reinvent the wheel, and instead of taking a look at the talent that's within. And so I want to echo their points and say the same thing, and personally, again, to congratulate you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any other commissioners on here, so thank you so much for the report. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.